my dear students, how are you? I hope you are all well and healthy. In our previous class, we discussed about some topics. My dear students, there is a creative question. Observe the diagram and answer the questions. In this diagram, there is stigma, style and ovary. And A part is the ovule. Question number C, draw the LS of the A part of the stem. So my dear students, A part is a ovule and you have to draw the ovule's picture. And another question is, how does the embryo form in the A part of the stem? You have to write down here the embryonic development. Diploid zygote or oospore results from the fertilization of both haploid sperm and ovum cells. Zygote is the first cell of the sporophytic plants. This zygote makes a thick wall around itself and remains dormant for some period. At the end of the dormant period, by the mitotic cell division, a pro-embryo is formed. Later on, by successive cell division, this pro-embryo develops a complete embryo of a seed. And my dear students, our next question is, mention the changes that take place inside the fallopian tubes after fertilization. So my dear students, you have to write down here embryonic development. Okay, our next question is, observe the diagram, answer the question. This diagram is a male gametophyte and the question is, describe the process of creation X of the stem. Creation X, X is the sperm, and creation X of the stem is the creation of male gametophyte. Okay, number D. Our next question is, alternation of generation is impossible in higher organisms without X. Explain. Alternation of generation. What is alternation of generation? My dear students, to complete the life cycle, gametophytic or haploid generation alternate with the sporophytic or diploid generation is known as alternation of generation. Here X is sperm and fertilization is not possible without sperm. As a result of fertilization, the ovules which are located inside the ovary transform into seed and the ovary transform into fruit. Without fertilization, a plant cannot return to the state of diploid from the haploid state. So, if there is no fertilization, a radical change is in the nature would have been occurred. By the process of fertilization, genetical changes takes place between the two plants. As a result, new species develops in the long run. Formation of diploid stage from haploid stage occurs in fertilization process. So, my dear students, you have to write down here the fertilization process. Okay, my dear students, our next question is development of female gametophyte. Here you have to write down the development of female gametophyte. You know about female gametophyte. And our next question is, reproduction is possible without the X of the stem. Analyze. Here you have to write down the asexual reproduction. My dear students, you know about asexual reproduction. The reproduction of plants where no involvement of male and female gametes is called asexual reproduction. There are two major types of asexual reproduction, A by spores and B by vegetative reproduction. There are two types of vegetative reproduction. Those are, one natural vegetative reproduction and second one is artificial vegetative reproduction. Natural vegetative reproduction, then there are many ways of natural vegetative reproduction. They may reproduce by fragmentation like Asparagida, They may reproduce by budding. It occurs in potato and ginger. They may reproduce by stem. It occurs in banana and pudina. They may reproduce by root, for example, dahlia and cockerel. And they may reproduce by leaves, for example, patharkuchi, coleus. You know about it. Dear students, you have to memorize every examples of this portion for your MCQ. Okay, artificial vegetative reproduction. They are cutting, layering, grafting, gutting, budding, and tissue culture. Those all are important for your comprehensive type question. There are some knowledge-based question also. Suppose, what is grafting? A branch of desired plant is artificially grafted with another plant of the same type to produce new plant is called grafting. Our next knowledge-based question is scion. What is scion? A branch, a small twig or shoot of a desired plant is taken as the cutting which is to be grafted is called scion. Our next knowledge-based question is stalk. What is stalk? The stem of another rooted plant in which the scion is be grafted is called stalk. Dear students, our next question is, it is possible to produce improved varieties from the existing varieties by pollination under controlled conditions. Our next question, briefly describe the process of inventing new varieties according to the stem. My dear students, here you have to write down the artificial reproduction. And number D, as a result of successful implementation of the above mentioned method, Bangladesh today is self-sufficient in food. Analyze the logic of the statement with examples. Importance. Here, my dear students, you have to write down the importance of artificial reproduction. So, artificial reproduction, you know what is artificial reproduction. Since our next step is reproduction is an essential process on earth, maintains the continuity of life, and changes in the environment are dependent on reproduction. Higher plants reproduce through sexual and asexual vegetative reproduction. There are two types of vegetative reproduction, which is natural and artificial. And our next question is, explain the bee process mentioned in the stem. This is the artificial reproduction. My dear students, you know about artificial reproduction. At first, we know the hybridization, the process of producing of a new improved variety by artificial pollination between two or more genetically different varieties is known as hybridization. The plants thus produced are known as hybrids. The process of artificial crossing between two or more genetically different varieties of plant to produce high-yielding new variety is called artificial hybridization. The process by which two different plants of the same species are crossed artificially to produce expected variety is called artificial hybridization. Methods of artificial hybridization or hybridization process: parent selection, self-pollination, emasculation, bagging, crossing, leveling, collection of seeds, and then raising new variety. Then importance of artificial breeding. You have to mention to develop high yielding variety, then disease resistant variety, stress and flood resistant variety, high yielding fruit, uniform plants, seedless fruit, development of short span crops. Then, my dear students, our next question is, write the difference between the 1 and 2 process referred to the stem. And 1 and 2 process is the sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction or vegetative reproduction. This is the difference of sexual reproduction and vegetative reproduction. In sexual reproduction, it involves one or more organisms, and asexual reproduction, it involves in a single organism. Here, male and female gametes are formed. No production of gametes here. No production of gametes, and it involves fusion of male and female gametes. There is no fusion of gametes. Offsprings will have some characters from male parents and others from female parents. Some may not either of parents. But in asexual reproduction, offsprings are identical to parents. More changes of genetic variation occurs here, and here less changes of genetic variation occurs. And here highly useful for natural selection in evolution of species, and here not very useful for natural selection. My dear students, I hope you can understand our today's questions properly. And for MCQ questions, you have to follow our textbooks, our exercises, and our test papers. Okay. Thank you, my dear students, to stay with us.